Welcome everyone. Today I will explain the plot of a 2019 drama series called Janus no Kagami. At a student council meeting, we see a quiet and reserved high school student by the name of Hiromi, where Shindo, the president, is looking for volunteers to help him with the upcoming sports festival. Deep down, Hiromi wants to volunteer, but she is too shy to do it herself. However, her friend Jun nominates her. Everything works out perfectly, and even Shindo seems to be happy since he appears to like Hiromi. Hiromi lives with her grandmother, Takako, who is a very strict person. When Hiromi reaches her home, Takako starts whipping her, but she makes sure she doesn't leave any bruises on her face or hands. Takako is furious because earlier, Shindo had called Hiromi's house to discuss the event. She assumed that Hiromi is getting involved with a boy and doesn't even listen to what she has to say. Takako fears that if Hiromi interacts or converses with any man, she will end up like her mother. The following day, Shindo stops Hiromi from falling from a chair, and Jun snaps a picture of that moment. A while later, as Hiromi checks the photo she received from Jun, her grandmother observes from behind. Furiously, Takako pulls Hiromi outside to the dark storage area, tosses her in a shed, and closes the door to prevent her from leaving. Inside, she starts panicking, but having no alternatives, she starts looking at the few objects in the shed. While searching, two particular objects capture her attention: a torn picture of her mother Yukiko with an unknown man beside her, and a little perfume bottle that Hiromi accidentally drops, causing it to spill out. She recognizes the scent immediately, but she is unable to place where she smelled it before. A few moments later, Hiromi passes out on the floor before finally waking up as Yumi. As she wakes up, she has no idea how she got out of the shed. Yumi is physically identical to Hiromi, yet her appearance and behavior are very different. Unlike Hiromi, who is quiet and shy, Yumi is a young rebel who goes on to steal a pair of wallets from guys who are attempting to pick her up, but she doesn't succeed the third time, as a young man named Tatsuya catches her in the act. Later in a bar, Yumi is accused of trying to pick up Hayato, Ryoko's alleged boyfriend. Immediately, things get heated, and they engage in a fight. Surprisingly, Yumi manages to fight them comfortably, but soon she pulls out her knife and manages to slice Yumi's arm. The fighting suddenly comes to a stop as sirens are heard and the crowd scatters. After a while, Yumi dresses as Hiromi when she gets home, but her personality is still Yumi. She has been out past her curfew, which naturally frustrates her grandmother. Once home, Yumi stepped calmly out of the path when Takako tries to strike her, startling Takako and causing her to slip. Later on, Yumi can be seen writing in Hiromi's diary. Hiromi wakes up the following morning feeling normal, although she has a knife wound on her arm. She worries about how she got a cut because the last thing she remembers was being trapped in the shed. Since Takako reads the diary after Hiromi leaves for school, she is aware that something is wrong. At school, we see Hiromi on the committee that is in charge of managing the upcoming sports festival. Meanwhile, the president Shindo seems to be developing feelings for her, but keeps it a secret. In the meantime, Hiromi is approached by two girls who claim to have seen her the night before at a club. They try to attack her, but Shindo and Jun intervene to save her. Next, Yumi wants to know the truth about what happened to her mother after Hiromi found an old photo of her mother in front of the club, even though Hiromi has never wondered about it. In the meantime, Yumi continues to pickpocket with the help of Tatsuya, the guy who stopped her from stealing a wallet before. She also gives them some cash for their help. Soon after, Yumi comes up with an idea to get rid of the girls who mistreated her. That evening, she approaches them as they are browsing jewelry items through a store window. As she gets closer, knowing they need money, Yumi inquires if the girls are interested in earning a handsome sum of money. Naturally, the girls agree. Yumi then arranges for two of them to work as call girls. Later, she takes pictures of the girls' encounter and releases them in the school. As a result, within 2 days, the girls are expelled from school. Shindo worries that Hiromi could have been involved in the girls' expulsion, so he decides to look into it that evening. He finds Tatsuya's hidden apartment, where Hiromi has changed into her Yumi personality. However, Shindo cannot comprehend what's happening and says that she just happens to look like Hiromi and nothing else. He's surprised because there is no way that Hiromi would be out on the streets at night. Eventually, Shindo is happy that the girl isn't Hiromi and is about to leave Tatsuya's house. However, he is immediately attacked and taken prisoner by a group of girls who hates Yumi. Since Yumi is so dissimilar to Hiromi and is quite a fighter, things don't go well for the attackers. Soon enough, she successfully manages to defeat a couple of girls, while the rest of them run for their lives. Next, Shindo goes out the following night looking for Yumi to better understand what's going on. Soon he meets her at Tatsuya's place, where Yumi mentions that Hiromi lives inside her. Moments later, Yumi undergoes her regular transformation into Hiromi, which is starting to get more frequent. But after her transformation into Hiromi, she passes out. Fortunately, Shindo is there to take her home. Nonetheless, he is now much more puzzled by the situation. Back home, Takako is furious to see a man dropping her granddaughter home. Initially, the transformations were happening once every day, but lately, it has been occurring a few times a day, which confuses Hiromi, as she has no clue what's going on. Meanwhile, we learn that Yukiko, Hiromi's mother, committed suicide by jumping from a roof not long after giving birth to a daughter. The next day, Hiromi and her friend Jun go to a jewelry store. Since Hiromi's watch stopped working, they find out that the watch can be mended, but it would have to stay overnight at the repair shop. As they are about to leave, they meet the owner of the shop, Komoto. Hiromi is certain that she has seen Komoto's face somewhere before, but again, she isn't entirely sure. On the other hand, after conducting an extensive investigation with Tatsuya, Yumi concludes that Komoto is, without a doubt, her father. But still, her main goal is to learn what occurred that caused Komoto to abandon his wife, and whether he had anything to do with her death. To get to the bottom of this, she prepares to rob Komoto's jewelry store with the help of girls who tried creating a ruckus earlier. Also, she promises the girls they will be extremely wealthy if the heist is successful. However, Yumi has a plan in mind. She wants the girls out of the way, so they won't get in the way of her plans to get revenge on her father. Next, with the help of Tatsuya, Yumi manages to get the store key along with the code to disable the security system. As Yumi unlocks the store relatively easily, the girls feel a little relaxed, thinking they're under professional guidance. However, Yumi informs them that she will enter through the back entrance. The girls were too naive for Yumi's ploy, because a few moments later, police storm the jewelry store and capture the girls in the act. But the mastermind Yumi is nowhere to be seen. While the girls are getting arrested, Ryoko is furious, but she can't do anything about it. Now that the gang has been defeated, Yumi continues her dealings with her father, Komoto, as there is no more interruption in her way. The following day, the jewelry heist is broadcast on television. When Takako finds out that Komoto is the store's owner, she starts to have serious doubts about Hiromi's motives. It almost seems that she has not forgiven Komoto for what he did to her daughter. At the same time, Hiromi learns through her grandmother that Komoto is indeed her father. Next, Hiromi returns to the store to meet her father. However, this time, she is transformed into Yumi, and Komoto is unaware that she has two sides to her personality. But he can tell something is off, since Hiromi has changed drastically since they first met. Yumi is aggressive from the start and convinces her father to accompany her to an abandoned factory. Komoto keeps insisting on the fact that he did not abandon Yumi's mother, but unlike Hiromi, she could see through his lies. To get the answer, she starts pressurizing her father, and moments later, he finally talks about Yukiko's suicide and also mentions that he saw her end her life. Before Yumi could make her move, Komoto strikes her, gaining the upper hand for some time. Just then, Yumi transforms back into Hiromi and does not fight back. However, in a matter of seconds, Yumi regains control and fiercely fights against her father. After a tense fight, Yumi strikes him in the head with a tool as Komoto lays there in a pool of his blood. The next morning, Komoto's death is reported in the press, and the news spreads rapidly. Meanwhile, Takako is quite happy to hear the news, since she had always held Komoto responsible for her daughter's death. On the other hand, Shindo asks Hiromi if she had anything to do with Komoto's death. Even though Hiromi wasn't there, she knows Yumi, her alter ego, murdered him. Up until this point, Hiromi had no idea she had a split personality, but it seems like she is finally aware of the situation now. Hiromi then informs Shindo that she is obliged to surrender herself for the murder and has no other option. But Shindo is aware that Hiromi is not guilty and promises her that he will speak with Yumi to straighten things out. Later that evening, he meets Yumi's only friend, Tatsuya, who has a strong affection for her. However, he doesn't agree with Shindo's statement that Yumi and Hiromi are the same person. Wanting to talk to Yumi, Tatsuya goes out and finds Yumi, but he is not the only one looking for her. A few days earlier, Ryoko's friends were set up to be arrested, and now that she's out on bail, she's thirsty to get revenge on her. As soon as she spots Yumi on the street, she runs up to her with a knife in her hand. Likewise, Tatsuya is also running towards Yumi at the same time. He knows exactly what he's getting into as he jumps in and throws himself in front of Yumi, getting himself stabbed. Immediately after the incident, Tatsuya is rushed to the hospital. Later, when Shindo visits him, he informs him that Ryoko died when she was struck by a car not long after the incident. Then Shindo goes to Yumi's house to visit her, but she isn't there. At that moment, he has a sneaking suspicion that Yumi may commit another murder. Meanwhile, Hiromi's grandmother tells Shindo to go away, since she cannot stand the sight of men, especially if they are fond of her granddaughter. Shortly after, Hiromi returns home when her grandmother starts berating her as she usually does. She once again locks Hiromi in the backyard shed. There, she looks in the mirror, where she is able to converse with her alter ego, Yumi. Yumi and Hiromi finally converse, and Yumi says that she has a huge plan to put an end to everything. She tells Hiromi that she'll be residing in her body full-time for a while to finally end their grandmother's life. Hiromi, however, begs Yumi to stop doing it, but Hiromi has no control over when Yumi might enter or leave her body. Following their conversation, Yumi instantly possesses Hiromi's body and sets off on a quest to kill their grandmother. Next, Takako is confronted by Yumi with a box cutter. Since the personality switch between Hiromi and Yumi has been occurring more frequently than before, Hiromi appears and sobs as he realizes what Yumi is going to do. Truth be told, Yumi didn't actually stab the elderly woman. Instead, she caused a small heart attack, which is still keeping the grandma alive in the hospital, despite being critical. Next, Hiromi goes up to the hospital's roof, where she informs Shindo that her mother had jumped from there 17 years ago. Yumi had already made a promise to Shindo that she will permanently leave Hiromi's body after taking the life of her grandmother, which she failed. However, Yumi is unable to leave because she shares the same body with Hiromi, leaving her with just one choice. Yumi decides to kill herself and Hiromi by jumping over the hospital roof. Hearing this outrageous plan, Shindo pleads with her not to follow her mother's path, but Yumi ignores his pleas. After a brief moment of uncertainty, she hurriedly jumps over the railing and hurls herself off the roof. However, Shindo manages to be there in a flash, and he quickly grasps her hand. He couldn't possibly hold on forever, but Yumi makes sure he won't, as she slices his palm with a box cutter, forcing him to drop her. Naturally, it seems as though she had passed away, but later on, we see Hiromi lying down in a hospital bed, and as the season ends, she slowly opens her eyes.